Hello, friends. A very warm welcome to Ansarkari, and again continuing this episode on economics optional paper one, where we have been taking up on the real time basis. It's a kind of a on the go approach, and also it is an approach which helps us to actually learn a lot. And the goal is not to have a passive learning, but to have a active learning ecosystem. And the fact that this is a kind of behind the scene approach we are trying to show, so that how we are writing and how we are going to learn with every day work. So we are not showing any superficial or polished work. It is a very true and honest and a courageous approach, where we believe that examination do reward. Maybe it is very demanding, but it do reward honesty, integrity, and also the correct public approach. With these ideas, I'll ask Mansi to speak up the discussions. I'll be reading out the question because these are paper one, so I would always ask her to take the initiative, so that formula and concept she is explaining. So examine the impact of monetary policy when there is a complete wage price flexibility and supply creates its own demand.
जी सर. So it is a characteristic of classical theory. So classical theory of output is characterized by wage price flexibility and Say's law. When we say that supply creates its own demand, so that is Say's law, where full employment is always maintained state of equilibrium. And under this, since it is asking about monetary policy, so it becomes ineffective under this framework. So as to explain this, we have to use these two graphs. So in panel A, we see full employment at NF, which is here NF point. It exists at real wage W1 divided by price P1 at point E. So when money supply increases, we assuming expansionary monetary policy. So here in panel B, aggregate demand curve shifts up to AD dash in B, and in the long run, we see equilibrium will be shifting to point T. Here point T, we can see that there are two aggregate supply curve. So under the classicals, we see that the long run aggregate supply curve is perfectly inelastic, and this is upward sloping short run aggregate supply curve. So because it is the long run AS is perfectly inelastic, we see that when aggregate demand is increasing, the price will only increase. There's no increase in the national output, that is GDP. So prices will increase to P2 as full employment is already there in the economy, and real wages will fall to W naught P2 in a panel, which creates excess demand, which is depicted here. It falls down from the equilibrium level and excess demand for the labor is created. So due to wage price flexibility being a feature, labor will demand increase in wages, increasing the money wage W, which is back to W1 P1 equilibrium level, where it equals the ratio of the increase in the nominal wage with the increased price, that is new price is P2. So the only we see that this only nominal wage has increased along with the prices, which means nominal variables with increase in the money supply is the change after the increase in money supply. So output and real income there, that is not changing. So this is also called the neutrality of money. That is, money is neutral to the real variable changes, giving rise to the classical dichotomy of money. So this is the concept.
So we have been able to explain it clearly, I believe so, and we will again compare it at the end of the question. Explain the paradox of thrift.
So thrifting, that
What is
is,
about thrifting?
Anji, we associate as the saving behavior. It is considered as a virtue in economics that leads to more investment as per the classical school of thought, because they believe that savings is equal to investment always at the equilibrium level. But when we talk about Keynes, he believes that savings, that is thrifting, is a leakage of the money from the income stream, since two
Mm.
different groups, the indulgent savings and investment, which is affected by different factors. So in the graph, we see that the investment curve is perfectly elastic as it is not a function of income. So that is why it is parallel to the x-axis. And in the figure, point E, which is the initial equilibrium at Y level of output, that is GDP, with I is the investment level. So since savings will increase, because we're talking about thrifting, so savings, when that is increasing, so the savings curve, that is S curve, will shift left to S dash, and now it will intersect investment curve at E dash, which is this point towards left of E, after savings has increased to S dash point. And It can be seen that national output it reduces to y dash level as a result of this increased savings that do not translate into investment. So investment is a vehicle of economic growth that increases aggregate demand, resulting in the loop of production, which leads to rise in employment and then the income level of the labor, and then they spend more, further increasing the aggregate demand and hence the national output. But this loop does not work here, and therefore we see that thrifty behavior it actually leads to fall in the GDP, leading to the paradox of thrift.
Okay.
Jason.
Hmm. Coming to the next one, what is the potential output gap? How is it explained in Keynesian and neoclassical model?
So potential output is the full employment output level, where we can also say that the zero involuntary unemployment exists and all the factors seeking work, they are employed and engaged. And when it is asking about potential output gap, so it is the difference between the potential output of the economy, which is the maximum potential output, minus the current, which is the actual output. So that is leading to the output gap. So in the graph, we see that, because firstly we'll talk about Keynes. So present output level, it exists at Y actual, which is the actual output GDP. It is less than the potential output, that is Y star, at equilibrium E star. So this deficiency of aggregate demand leads to the situation at E, that is the potential output gap. So fiscal stimulus, it can, that is the fiscal expansionary fiscal policy can fill the gap as per Keynes to achieve the equilibrium at Y star, or we can say at E star. So under neoclassicals, we see that they also believe that potential output gap, it can be corrected automatically through market forces, as complete wage and price flexibility, it exists along with the Say's law, which is in operation. So there is no deficient demand as per the Say's law. So graphically, when we see that equilibrium initially is at intersection point E, and this is the long run aggregate supply curve, which is depicting the full employment level. This is the actual output. So that is why it creates an potential output gap. And it, because of automatic forces, market forces, we'll see the short run aggregate supply curve will increase, aggregate supply increases, intersect at E dash, where we see full employment is achieved. So in the figure, short run SAS, it increases to SAS dash, reaching the potential output YF in the long run. So therefore, the potential output gap is identified by both, but the belief and the process to fill it, that is different.
Okay, so deficient spelling is correct. It's the correct spelling, or D single F will come. I'm not sure.
And it should be single.
Anyways, so you have just explained the whole thing.
Yes.
Uh, okay, fine.
So when we compare, so first question is the impact of monetary policy when there is complete wage price flexibility and supply creates its own demand. So there is wage price flexibility and Say's law operates, then the full employment is a logical outcome, monetary policy becomes ineffective. So monetary policy and vertical aggregate supply curve, expansion in monetary policy leads to rightward shift in the AD curve, which is above. And starting from point E in figure A with expansionary monetary policy, AD shifts right and up to this AD1 level,
M1,
increase in money supply. This will create excess demand and price pushed upwards. So there is rise in the labor demand and shifts right, figure B. There's upward shift in the downsloping labor demand curve. So here,
since there is a complete wage
price
price.
flexibility, workers they will demand higher wages as their real wages decline due to increase in the price. So the labor supply shifts back immediately from the initial level to W1 P1, which is
Hmm.
E level. So the employment returns to level N and we get vertical AS. So as
Hmm.
shown in the figure A, increased aggregate demand only caused a rise in the prices, no impact on the output. Thus, with the flexible wage and price sales law, monetary policy will only cause change in the nominal variable with no impact on real variable. This is known
Hmm.
as neutrality of money, and this is due to classical dichotomy. So,
So
so
when we handled the question, I believe we were also making it simple, but then I think it is the comparative, the way it is explained to both figure A and B. because it is talking about expansionary monetary policy, which is leading to rightward shift in the AO curve,
Ye-
AD curve.
Hmm.
So fair enough. What is your comment?
So my approach is also similar. So
Hmm.
I've
So
also, this is the
we have also
conventional question, so it is
correct.
like direct application of the concept.
Chaliye, next one.
Paradox of thrift.
I'm just saying, let's yes, our approach is also same, but then like the way a little subtle way of putting it up in terms of only this is the change coming through A to A, B to B, C.
Ye-
This
Hmm.
is only I'm addressing. That's all. Paradox of thrift.
So it was explained by Keynes, as everyone try to save more and more, the aggregate savings in the economy will remain the same, and overall income that will decline. So this
So
is
directly he's addressing the paradox of thrift. He's not talking about like what someone believes and like the way we have written in the beginning that whether it is saving or not, how it is to be seen.
hmm. So starting from equilibrium point, you suppose a saving rate, which is marginal propensity to save, increases in the economy, savings curve shifts upward, and economy moves from point E to E1, where savings is more than investment. As we know that consumption equals to income minus saving, that is Y minus S. So savings
Uh,
increase, consumption will start falling because again the less proportion of income is left to consume. So aggregate demand equation, as consumption falls, aggregate demand will fall, thus income starts falling. This is the savings equation. So as income fall, the savings will also start falling along the new savings curve. Savings will fall until equilibrium is reached, where it is equal to investment is reestablished at point E2. So it's known as a paradox because rise in savings rate leads to no change in aggregate savings rate, rather lead to decline in the income. So thus, according to Keynes, savings is a vice in times of recession.
mm, very true. So what is your comment when we compare? I believe we have also gone in the same way.
Hanji,
The only fact is again I'm saying that like when putting up it in a formula format,
ji,
here the candidate is just explaining each step and then bringing one point and then each step. That is the only difference I think. We
Hanji,
are
sir.
also coming to this structure. We are also talking about the same thing, but I think structure is a little bit simpler over here.
Ji. Hmm. Then what is the potential output gap? How is it explained by Keynes in a neoclassical model? So potential output refers to the output achieved when all the factors of production are fully and efficiently employed, and potential output gap refers to the gap between potential output and the actual output in the economy. So Keynesian model, well, yeah. So Keynes believed that there will be the output gap because of the unstable nature of investment, and since people who save and people who invest, they are not the same. Thus, there is no reason to ensure savings equal to investment, equilibrium condition for full employment. Therefore, only way to bridge this gap is by increasing the government expenditure, that is the fiscal policy use. Increase in G leads to increase in aggregate demand, and new equilibrium will be established at E star, where the actual and potential output will be equal and potential output gap will be eliminated at E star. Now, new classical approach, so in the short run, there'll be an output gap, but neoclassical believe that in the long run, with the wage flexibility and rational expectation, economy would gravitate towards the potential output at E star. So they believed in self-correcting nature of the market and did not advocate the government intervention. As both Keynes and neoclassicals acknowledge the potential output gap to exist, only the difference between the two is how they choose to deal with it.
Deal with it, yes.
G.
So I believe questions are coming up on the same track and line because you are also writing with simplicity and clarity. But and then at the end of the day,
G.
uh, we could see over here like in the end also it is simple to the point and asking and obviously creating a kind of a very clear picture. And same is the idea with our answers. What do you say? We can conclude in a a brief, very brief. You can
G.
conclude.
We can, so I learned that we can use much less words to convey the message.
Correct.
That will make it simple.
And yes, one we can use less words to convey the message. Second, again what I've been stressing throughout, that to represent something graphically and to use the formula, it automatically takes away a lot of headache, I would
G.
say.
Hmm.
And then you are responsible for making sure that all elements of the representation you are able to explain. I think it is once the conceptual clarity is there, one can easily do it.
जी सर. हाँ जी.
So thank you very much for enjoying, understanding, and again learning and taking away very, very important key points, which I'm sure is going to help uh, us to achieve our potential and also to get success through different courses, everyday hard work, and also deep commitment, thereby leading to success within Sarkari. Thank you very much.